Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are following us either in Zoom or Facebook. Welcome to our first ever briefing with children. The Special Representative is very happy to join us today for this historical day in the history of the mandate. We are just waiting a little bit because we have over 1,000 persons registered for this meeting. So we are just giving a couple of seconds to make sure that everyone is included, especially children who we would like not to miss not even a second of this event that is basically for them to learn a little bit more about the mandate, but more importantly, to share their reflections, ideas, and suggestions for us to even improve our work, because after all, this mandate is made for children. And we are, again, very, very excited because this event, as you can see, was prepared with children, and they are going to be the spotlight of this event. So I believe that maybe now we are ready. We are also streaming live on Facebook. So we hope that you will be able to follow and, more importantly, to contribute with questions either here in the Q&A or in the Facebook with direct messages through the Facebook page of the Special Representative. You'll be able to contribute to make this event participatory and even more interesting. So I would like to welcome you all to this historical briefing. My name is Miguel Caldeira. I work in the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children. And again, I'm very, very happy to welcome you all to this historical day. It is indeed a special event for us. For the first time since establishment of the mandate in 2009, the Special Representative is reporting officially, directly to children. The Special Representative reports usually 2 times a year, one to the General Assembly and another time in Geneva to the Human Rights Council. Now, this is done usually to member states, countries, member states of the United Nations, and the rooms are filled up with only adults, unfortunately for us, because we really, really like to work with children. Today is going to be the other way around. We are going to have many more children in front of us to whom the Special Representative is going to be detailing her activities, achievements, and even asking for suggestions on how to improve our work. Today's event was not organized only by the office. It was co-organized with some friends and partners that we would like to acknowledge. First, the World Organization of the Scout Movement, also Child Rights Connect, and COVID under 19. We really thank you for the support. We had incredible weeks working with children from all over the globe, Malaysia, Brazil, India, and we are very happy that you helped us putting this briefing together. As I mentioned, why is this event being organized? Children's participation and children's empowerment is indeed a priority for the Special Representative and for the mandate. And children themselves are taking action everywhere in different areas. So every year, as I said, the Special Representative reports 2 times, but mainly, unfortunately, to adults where representatives from all countries in the world contribute also with suggestions on how to make the world a better place, free from violence for every child. So usually these reports that the Special Representative prepares are for adults to read with complicated concepts and words. Well, we adapted that report to the Human Rights Council and made a child-friendly version so that children could understand a little bit better what we do. But we didn't do it alone. Children themselves know how they want to capture the message. So they contributed with comments and suggestions to make the child-friendly truly friendly for them and their peers. So the event is going to start with the Special Representative delivering a short statement, and then she will be responding to questions from the audience. So we highly encourage you to use the chat box on Zoom on this platform with questions so that we can then can be responded by the Special Representative. We'll have 3 moderators. All of them are children, just like you. We ask you to, when you ask the questions, to drop them and try to read them one more time before you press enter. Make sure that they are spelled correctly so that our translating platform or tool doesn't make any mistakes and the answers can be addressed the way you pose them. If you do not speak English, This event is being translated in different languages into Spanish, French, Arabic, Bahasa, and Lao. Please use the little globe that you see under me. I guess here, press that and choose the language that you speak so that you can understand everything that is said here. We want everyone to feel comfortable in this event. So cameras, microphones, and the chat functionality between participants are not enabled, so participants will not be able to see themselves on camera, but again, we encourage you to use the chat box to pose questions. Again, the event is being recorded and also streamed live on our Facebook page. I'm going to drop here the link if you want to share with some friends. Now, the code of conduct, that is a small document that we prepared to make sure that everyone understands what the rules are, and is going to share it now with all of you so that we are all on the same page and understand exactly how we should behave throughout this meeting. So child safeguarding might be a little bit of a complicated concept, so we are going to explain to you. We consider a child, or the definition of the child is anyone under the age of 18 years old. And the organizations work with children like ours, including the ones that are hosting this event today, have a responsibility to make sure that children who participate in these events and activities are always safe from harm. We call this child safeguarding. Unfortunately, online and offline, there's always a risk that children may experience some sort of harm. That is why we are asking all participants in this event today to make a pledge to keep everyone, in particular children, safe. This will make our time together fun, supportive, and inclusive for all children around the world. The organizers will remove anyone from the meeting who is not respecting the pledge or acting in any way that harms children. It is important for you, for every participant, to know that is not, or especially children, that is not your fault if someone tries to hurt you. The pledge for the participants, as you can see, is also outlined here. During the event today, each participant has, or we ask the participants to treat each other as you would like to be treated during the event, through the chat or social media. Please be respectful and mindful and friendly to everyone. Please do not shout, tease, bully, or use any form of violence or bad language. Treat everyone equally. We are all equal regardless of race, gender, age, religion, education, cultural background, or anything else. There will be many different opinions today and ideas, and it is very important for everyone that we not only welcome but also celebrate diversity. We will try to use child-friendly version at all times. Try to use simple language and avoid complicated words. Try to speak slowly. If someone is not clear, ask please someone to explain so that you understand everything that is being said today. Listen to others. We want to hear what all participants have to say. Everyone should feel welcomed and listened in our shared space. Please do not interrupt each other. Only participate if you choose to. Participation is obviously voluntary, and it is your choice to take part in it. So don't feel obliged to do so. You can decide not to join in a discussion at any time. You can also stop talking and answering questions anytime you like. Stay safe online. Please do not share any personal information or passwords with anyone while we're in this meeting. Please also do not share photos or information from private communications with other participants on social media without approval and telling them what you are going to do with them. And if you feel hurt at any moment, or if you notice or witness or feel that another child is being hurt or experience anything that makes you uncomfortable, please tell us immediately. For that reason, we have 3 colleagues who are going to be paying special attention to the chat box and will be available to address any issues that might come up throughout the event. These 3 colleagues are Manus Navarra, my colleague in the office, as well as Lucha Sotomayor and Kristen Hope. So I would like to ask them to please switch on their cameras so that you know with whom you're going to be talking. If something comes up, please feel free. I highly recommend that you write to them. They are wonderful people, and they will make you feel super comfortable and help you in any questions that you might have throughout this event. I was committed to only speak for 5 minutes. I went way beyond this time, and I'm not on the spotlight. So I'm going to pass the microphone to the Special Representative of the Secretary General of Violence Against Children, Dr. Najat Malla M'jid, to deliver her statement. Najat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miguel. Dear children, dear friends, dear experts from worldwide. Ahlan wa sahlan. Hola a todas y todos. Salut à toutes et à tous. Just, I am not preparing a statement. I will be short because today is I am accountable to you. And I want to hear from you. And I am also here to respond and to answer to your question. I just want to tell you some key messages. The report I am going to present on next Tuesday in Geneva in the Human Rights Council to various states worldwide is about investing in children. Why we need to invest in children? Not because it's funny, but because it's really important. Because we know that ending violence against children in all its forms cannot wait. Why? Because of the pandemic, because of the wars, because of the climate change, because of poverty, because of discrimination, because of many things. Violence against children is increasing worldwide and it's become less and less visible. Why ending violence against children worldwide cannot wait? Because it's impacting, children, impacting their mental health, impacting their learning, impacting, their behavior, and impacting also their life project and their future. Ending violence against children cannot wait because it has a cost, a human cost and an economic cost. And my report will show what is the economic cost and human cost. It's about trillions and trillions of dollars if we are not taking action to prevent and end all forms of violence against children. Another point that it's important, we cannot end. Somebody is speaking at the same time, it will be useful to switch off some mics. So ending violence against children is possible because all forms of violence are preventable. And we know the root causes and we know what to do. But the question is what we are not doing it. And this is why it's important today to have you on board because you are the experts, you are the presence, you are part of the solution. You are taking wonderful initiative worldwide. So we cannot prevent and end all forms of violence against children without children themselves. This is very, very important. And it's not only a slogan. I really trust, and I am 62 years old, and I am working with children when I was very young. And I learned a lot from them, working with children on street, with children victims of violence, with children in conflict with law, with children migrants, with child maids, and so many. So I learned a lot. And today I want also to learn from you. And also it is why it was one of my key strategic priority since I took my position 2 years and 9 months ago. For me, children's voices, children's perspective, children's opinion, children's proposal are important. And what is important for me is how we can use this mandate as a tool for you and with you to channel your decision to those who are taking, the decision, to policymakers to make sure that your voices, your proposals are taken into account. Just I want to remind you that, I am sure that the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. Many states made a promise. Ending all forms of violence against children by 2030. We have 8 years that just remain to keep our promise. And if we continue like that, we are not going to keep our promise. So it's why it's important for us to really push states with you as actors and to make, states at central level, at local level, but also to make UN system, taking into account your voice, involving you in all the decision making and investing in services for you and investing in you as actors of change. I will stop here because, what is important for me is really to hear you, to respond to your question and to discuss, because today is also to discuss about my work, to be accountable to you, but also to decide together how we want to move forward. So without further delay, I will give the floor to Ojaswi, who will moderate the first session. Over to you, Ojaswi.
Thank you, Najat. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to see you all here. Welcome, welcome, my friends. Welcome to this historic event. You know, it's something that's not been done before, and I hope all of you are really excited today. My name is Ojaswi. I'm 17. I'm from India, and I will be transmitting the first set of questions to Najat. But before we do, I'd like to provide all of you with a gentle reminder that you guys are important here and you guys should participate, right? So if you have questions, please use the question answer feature, and you feel free to submit questions in your local language. We have a translating team, but just please make sure that the spellings are accurate so that we don't have any problems in translating the questions and the questions are accurate, okay? So we are going to watch a video now where there are going to be a couple of questions, and after we watch those questions, we are going to have Najat answer them.
มีคำถามแล้วเขาจะเดินจะได้ตอบ
أنا ريم عمري 19 سنة سورية وعايشة بلبنان. تعرفت عليك بشهر 12 من خلال زيارتك للبنان. حابة أوجه لك سؤال. بعد زيارتك للبنان كيف رح تقدري تساعدي الصبايا بالزوجات بعمر صغير تدعميهم حتى يكسبوا تعليمهم من أول وجديد؟
การศึกษาที่ไม่ได้
di dunia nyata maupun di online dan
ya
bagaimana
online
kualitasnya. Halo, nama saya Sri Wulan Paulina Borsmega, usia saya 14 tahun. Pertanyaan saya adalah, kenapa masih banyak anak-anak yang dieksploitasi dan bagaimana cara menghentikannya? Terima kasih.
Salut à toutes et à tous, je réponds au nom de King Etienne, c'est moi, de langue Burundi. Je représente les enfants ambassadeurs de la coalition Burundi Chad Right Forum Bissau Réfensif. Je représente Pan-African Chad Led Council au niveau de l'Afrique centrale qui est PACLO en cible. J'aimerais vous parler sur le changement climatique. Changement climatique, c'est un grand effet avec des conséquences néfastes sur la vie des enfants. Par exemple, s'il y a des inondations ou bien des catastrophes naturelles, les enfants sont obligés de déménager de leur foyer et partir loin de leur maison. Et en ce moment-là, ils n'auront pas l'accès direct à l'école. Alors qu'on sait que le droit d'étudier fait partie des droits des enfants, donc ce droit-là sera bafoué à cause de ces catastrophes naturelles. Nous tous investissons pour lutter contre ces changements climatiques.
Thank you. Those are some really pressing questions, and I'm glad that we have them. So I'd like to pass the mic over to Najat to answer them for all of you.
Thank you, Ojaswi. I was very happy to see even remotely Reem that I met in Lebanon during my recent country visit in December. And I will try to respond to the four questions. One is about early marriage, and effectively in Lebanon, during my country visit, I met many girls, boys, children, mothers, and many refugees from Syria. Just to remind you that you have many children, refugees in Lebanon and in Jordan also, that are here in camps, in informal settlements since more than 9 years. It's too long, far from their country, and with many issues. And regarding early child marriage, it was one of the consequences, you know, of this living condition, because, you know, it becomes a kind of coping mechanism, you know, really to respond. And it's in many other countries, and it's you have some social norms because you have some traditions, some culture that considers that the only future for a girl is really to get married. And also because of poverty, because of lack of access to education, you have more and more girls that are really going to be early married. And what I did during my country visit, and this is important just to let you know, Reem, I really channel all, you know, and the reports I made, you know, that was shared with the government, the whole government, but also all the UN country team, donors, the civil society, highlighting the urgency really to respond and to tackle this issue and to treat, refugees like citizens, like persons living, without discrimination, allowing them access to education, to health, to justice, to make sure that they are treated as equal. It's not an easy thing. And also discussing with parents, changing social minds. But I also met during this country visit wonderful, association initiative undertaken by girls themselves, really to raise awareness, to move forward. So I am following that and pushing, because for me, early child marriage is a big violence against children and against their health, their mental health, their well-being, their physical health. So it's really important, and I am continuing to follow, on this issue, just to let you know. And as young girls, you have a big role to play, because you are also actors of change, changing the minds of your parents, of your communities, and so on. Regarding the other question, it's about, if I am not wrong, it's about, online and all the violence online and offline, how we can deal. And it's a big issue, as I was telling, you have violence in all settings. You have violence at home, in communities, you have violence on street, you have violence in institution, you have violence in school, you have violence online that can take many forms, and it could be sexual abuse, sexual violence, it could be bullying, it could be hate speech. And to deal with that, it is why I'm telling that it's important to tackle and to address all the root causes of violence. And it means, educating, empowering children, this is important, fighting discrimination, improving the living condition, fighting poverty, this also is very important. And at the same time, making all the perpetrator, really accountable. It means fighting for justice that is easily accessible to all children. It means also fighting corruption, fighting impunity, and it means also having reporting mechanisms that are easily accessible to all children, so they can report safely, and also they can have access to services that are very, very quick and responding to their needs. But it's still a lot to do. But again, I come back to children. I think the best way also is empowering children, and mainly regarding child safety online, and regarding fighting bullying, cyberbullying, the hate speech spread, and so on, enrollment in criminal gangs, and so on. And I think by empowering, informing, and strengthening all these peer-to-peer, initiatives that many children are doing worldwide, it's really important. Regarding, the issue of climate change, I think this is important, and it will be my next report to the GA Assembly. And as I promised in the beginning, you will be the first, and we will do the same again, meeting with you before reporting, and really to see how we can deal with climate change, because climate change and natural disaster make many, not only, earthquake and so on, but also, all these drought, floods that make many population, displaced, and among them, the most vulnerable children. And these most vulnerable children, when they are moving in spaces, in some countries, in some condition, because they are poor, because they are vulnerable, they have no access to the basic services. And education is one. And when I'm speaking about education, it means really safe, inclusive, taking into account also girls, boys, and LGBTQ, and also disabled, and at the same time to make sure that it's a quality education, empowering, children, making them also part of the solution, involving, this culture of non-violence, citizenship, and so on. So yes, and it is why I am reminding you that the Agenda 2030 with its 70 goals, they are interlinked. We cannot end violence against children if we are not fighting poverty, discrimination, if we are not fighting, fighting climate change, if we are not building justice, and so on. So we need to do it together with you and for you. Over to you, Ojaswi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Najat. I really enjoyed the answers, and I hope other people did as well. And so I'd like to talk about the answers a little bit because I really admire Najat's commitment to the empowerment of the child, the involvement of the child in the fight for their justice. And I admire how adults and global policymakers are taking more accountability towards children in these spheres. But as there's a big problem of these solutions sort of being global solutions, not having much local weight, as in it's a little bit difficult to localize these solutions at this point of time. So with that, I'd like to sort of transition into the few questions that I've received from you guys, the participants of this event right now. So the first question is from Arun. He is from Nepal. And he wants to know, with reference to, how do you localize solutions and sort of the lack of localization of these solutions, that mostly when we hear children are being sexually abused, they are still unable to receive justice. So he'd like to know some of the reasons why on ground, in practice, this justice is not accessible to children. I'll move on to the next question. Whoever has sent this, sadly, we don't have a name. They've said that the report says a few times that children can use their voices to stop violence against children. And that's, again, very similar to what Najat just told us about the empowerment of the child and their involvement. But I'm sure like all of us would like to know what are a few ways how we can effectively use our voices. I mean, sort of specific instructions as to how we can do it as children who may not have much experience about this in the first place. And the last question, also sort of building onto this, is from Tajdar. He is from Pakistan, and he'd like to ask about, again, the issue of meaningful participation. He says that meaningful participation is being strongly encouraged in events such as these and on a global scale. However, he would like to know that what are the best practices in ensuring meaningful participation against children reduces violence against them on a policy-based level. So I hope I was able to transmit those questions properly. And Najat, I'd love to know what you have to say about this.
Thank you, Ojaswi. I will try to respond to the three questions. Regarding, children who are sexually abused and they are no access to justice, at ground level, because this is, if I'm not wrong, it's the first question. I think you have many causes that explain that, depending on when you are. I am from Morocco, and, speaking about sexual, issues or sexual relationship is very difficult for many children to discuss with their parents or their adults. This is one, and you have these social norms that make, girls and boys feeling guilty, because they were sexually abused. And this is really important how we can also break these, social norms that make this seen as a crime against children and not children feeling guilty. This is very important, and we need to work more and more on it. And in the same time, access to justice in many countries are not easy because depending on where you are living in a mountain, you are living in a remote area, you are poor. It's not easy for children to have access to justice, but you have another problem. You have a lack of trust in justice because many children have this scared about getting to the police station or to the justice because they think that they are not going to be heard, they are not going, to be treated, as victims. And it's also important regarding the response to make sure that child and gender sensitive for and with children is really, really implemented. And the last thing, it's also the fact that many children have no ideas about their rights and about the legislation, as well as their caregivers. And I think it's important also to see how, the children like you and young people who are aware about that, how you can also become this channel, of peer-to-peer information and peer-to-peer reporting and peer-to-peer counseling, because it's more easier for girls and boys to speak with their peers. This is very important. And as adults, as decision makers, we need to support you and to provide you with the tools to do it. This is important. Regarding the two questions that are linked, I think, voices of children. I am against this exhibit show when you have the wonderful children speaking on behalf of all the others, because it's not. I think what is important is how we can make it systematic, taking into account the representativity, not only of the children who are in school, but also those who are vulnerable, who are forgotten, who are left behind, to have this representativity and to make it more systematic. And in the same time, what means participation? It's listening to you, sure, but in the same time, it's responding to you, it's informing you, but also it's restituting to you, it's being accountable to you. This is very, very important. And what's the most difficult thing that I want to share with you, to be very frank with you, is having the representativity, how we can reach the most forgotten, the most invisible children. And here today, very frankly, I will be very happy to hear and to see also your role, how you can become this channel and have, reaching. And if you allow me, I just want to let you know that we did a child participation map, and a digital map that it's launched in our website. I will be very happy if it could be shown. And when we collect all the peer-to-peer learning, all the initiative undertaken by children, all the children involved in decision-making process, to make you also aware about that and to build links between you. This is very, very, very important. I hope I answer your question, Najat.
Thank you, Najat. I believe you answered them to my satisfaction. And to all of you watching, I really hope that you understood what Najat was saying. I really, really admire your focus on, the importance of peer-to-peer help and peer-to-peer support. And that's why I'd like to tell you guys, all of you that are watching, that it's really important that we support each other. It's great that we're seeing adults taking accountability and trying to reach out to us for these issues, because they haven't in the past, and we've been silent citizens for so long. But now it's happening. But it is a two-way interaction, right? So adults are reaching out to us, so we need to take their hand. Now, a lot of the questions indicated that we as kids don't really know how to, get that support, right? As given the questions with not knowing how to, achieve your rights or achieve justice. So along with that, campaigning is really important, and informing your peers of what they can do. And for that, we also have a little bit of a campaign toolkit that we have co-created, the organizations involved in this, and I think it will be dropped in the chat box below. As of now, it is in its first stage, so it's not available in all languages, but you are free to contact Curtis Holmes if you'd like it to be translated for your own purposes. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much to everyone that's joining and has joined. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the session. That was my time, and you have my best wishes going forward. Thank you so much, and I will be passing on to a very, very special child moderator. I'm sorry. She's a little scout, and she is so, so cute and very good at what she does. Her name is Aisha, and I'd love to pass over to her now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aisha Medina. I am 8 years old and I am from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Happy to see all of you today. Hello, Dr. Najat. Good to see you today. Friends, before we watch more questions from videos recorded, please drop your questions in the Q&A box and kindly write questions correctly for translation to work. Now, let's watch the video together.
Hello, my name is Carolina. I'm 17 years old and I'm from Brazil. Today, my question is about child participation in events like this. Looking into the future, as we take steps today to uplift children's voices and interests to stakeholders and governments, how much of an impact do you think today's event will have? Are you expecting a rising opportunity like this? Thank you so much.
My name is Exuda Mangambwa, a child journalist from Jonga Inclusive Secondary School, southern part of Zambia, doing grade 11, age 17. I'm very passionate about what the UN is doing to help us end child marriage and violence against children. Also, I'd like to know what the UN is doing in order for the voice of children living with disability to be heard. Thank you very much.
I am Fayal Javed, Child Member, National Commission on the Rights of Child in Pakistan. The question I would like to ask Dr. Najat is that how communities can involve children in decision-making processes that can help reduce the indices of violence against children. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Kiara, tengo 14 años y soy de Perú. A nosotros nos han explicado sobre la violencia familiar, la violencia hacia las mujeres y también la violencia de género. Pero también me parece importante saber cuáles son sus diferencias, en qué nos afecta a los niños, niñas y adolescentes y por qué se dan. Gracias.
Thank you for your question. I am interested in question 1 about how kids can benefit from events like this. Let's hear from Dr. Najat.
Thank you so much, Aisha. You are so wonderful and very, very straight to the point. So I will answer to the first response, if I am not wrong. I think this event, it has not to be an event. It's a beginning of a process that starts today, that starts before, but we need currently to systematize it. And before each big report to states, I will have meeting with children, worldwide, like today, to report to you and to hear from you and to make sure that your voices and your concern, when I am going to report after this meeting to the states, to make sure that they are taking into account. Over to you, Aisha, for the other question.
Okay. That is very important discussion indeed. Thank you, Dr. Najat. Thank you, friends, for submitting your questions in the Q&A box. Let me read some of the questions here. How do the parents protect their children when they do something harmful? Do they get punished or deprived of their freedom? Question from child in Laos.
Thank you, Aisha. I think I respond to the first question regarding, the video, and maybe I will pack, this to be other question before, because 2 questions were about disability and children involved in decision-making process and domestic violence and gender-based violence. If you allow me, I will respond, Aisha. Regarding, disability, I think it's one, when we are speaking about inclusion, and I think this is really important to make sure that children who have disabilities are really included and seen as part also of all, the decision-making processes. It's not very easy, to be very frank with you, because it depends on the type of disability, and we are pushing, more and more to make sure that the inclusion of children with disability are really taking into account in all the plan of action in decision-making process. But there is still a lot to do. And you have also, as children and young people, a huge role to play to make sure that when we are reaching children, children with disabilities are represented. This is one. Regarding, decision-making process, we are seeing more and more children involved by local governments, by central governments, in decision-making processes. During also the SDGs, also we saw more and more children, but still we need to do more and more to make it more systematic. This is very important in all, not only at central level, at community level, at school, within NGOs, within UN also, to make it systematic and not only one shot. And sure, the question related to domestic, gender-based violence and so on, this is important. And there are differences, but there are also, links between these forms of violence. Because what we saw, just to make sure, when we are speaking about children, victims of mainly domestic violence and gender-based violence, you have children who are experiencing and are witnessing, domestic violence. They are impacted also, and you have children who are victims themselves. So we need to make sure when we are speaking about violence, they could be witnessing, experiencing, and being victims. And we know also that you have the peer-to-peer violence, and you have some children who are committing violence against other children. So we need to take all this package and to make sure that we understand very well and we have the good responses. And regarding parents, the last question from the Q&A, yes, domestic violence, you have big problem regarding corporal punishment and, humiliating punishment. You have many parents that are using, harmful discipline, violent discipline to educate their parents. But what is important, we need strong laws to make sure that it's prohibited, it's forbidden to beat, to humiliate children for a discipline purpose. But in the same time, laws are not sufficient. We need to change the minds, of parents, to provide them parenting, counseling, to use the positive discipline, to establish dialogue, to listen to their children. And you have many good examples worldwide that we need to scale up. Over to you, Aisha.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Najat. Let's proceed with another question from Q&A box. How do we protect children who lost parental care and do not have homes?
This is a big question. It's about all the children who are placed in institution, children who are living on street, children who are migrant and separated from their children, children, who are their parents migrate and they're left behind, children whom those parents are in jail and they are separated. So it's huge. And what it's important for us is to make sure, because if we need really to protect children, we need to build an environment that is protective, safe, and empowering. It means not, to really work very, very closely with these children on street, in institution, to avoid institutionalization, to avoid separation from family. But it means also providing support to their families when they are poor, but also when they are violent. You can't leave a child with, in a violent environment. So it means also not putting them behind walls, not putting them in institution and forgetting them. What is important is to make sure that they have a kind of foster family and with follow-up when the child can be listened and child can report when he is victims or at risk of violence. Over to you, Aisha.
Okay. It is very interesting. I believe we have one more question here. How to raise awareness about child abuse in communities where there is no internet access?
Yes, the question is about raising awareness, of children in communities when there is no internet. You have a lot, many millions of children worldwide who have no access to internet because they are poor, because they are living in remote areas, because they are living on streets, because there are many other issues. So I think you have many other ways to raise awareness. And we have good examples that were done by children themselves, doing caravans, using radios, using TVs, some others are doing, visiting, home by home, visiting, and what is wonderful that I saw, and I was in Niger and Chad recently, and it was wonderful, and I'm sure that it's done in many other countries. When you see children, young people, and adults, when you have this intergenerational dialogue between them, so it is wonderful to discuss this issue, using also, SMS and so on. This is very important. But in the same time, what also I saw, and I really want to encourage what I saw, is this dialogue between children and the young people with religious leaders, with traditional leaders. This is very, very important because you, children and young people, can become actors of change within your community, involving the other. And you have wonderful examples regarding that. Over to you, Aisha.
Okay. Wow, I'm learning so many things today. Thank you, Dr. Najat, for teaching us so much. And a special thanks to everyone that submitted a question. We hope we managed to cover those here. And that is all from me. Thank you very much, everyone. I will now pass the mic to my new friend, Tim. Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Aisha. It's lovely to hear from both you, Dr. Najat, and also from Aisha. To everybody of you who are watching us online or through Facebook on every country of the world. So now we got also a set of video questions and 2 written questions. We would like for you, Dr. Najat, to reply to us. Also, we encourage everybody to write their questions in their natural language so that our interpreters can interpret them correctly. Please can you play the videos?
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम वेद है और मेरा उम्र 17 साल है और हम इंडिया से हैं। मेरे जैसे बच्चे लोग जो रास्ते से जुड़े रहते हैं उनको हम उनके अधिकार के बारे में बताते हैं ताकि वो अपना अधिकार अपने से ले पाए। और हमें ये भी पता है कि जितने भी देशों ने मिलकर ये लक्ष्य तैयार किया है जो कि 2030 से पहले बच्चे लोग के ऊपर जो अत्याचार होते हैं उसे रोकेंगे। और हमें ये भी पता है कि जितने भी देश के सरकार लोग हैं सब मिलकर ये अत्याचार को रोकने के लिए काम भी करते हैं, साथ ही साथ एक रिपोर्ट तैयार करके यूएन को भी भेजते हैं। अब मुझे लगता है कि मेरे जैसे बच्चे लोग जो रास्ते से जुड़े रहते हैं उन्हीं को ज़्यादातर ये अत्याचार फेस करना पड़ता है। मेरे जैसे और भी मेरे दोस्त लोग हैं जो ये अत्याचार को रोके भी हैं। मुझे एक सवाल करना है यूएन से और जितने भी वर्ल्ड के लीडर्स लोग हैं उनसे कि ये जो रिपोर्ट के रिव्यू होते हैं उसमें मेरे जैसे बच्चे लोग जो रास्ते से जुड़े रहते हैं उनको क्या बोलने का इसमें अधिकार।
My name is Marita, I'm 17 years old and I'm from Aotearoa, New Zealand. My question is, why do you think it's important that children are involved in the making of child safeguarding policies? Thank you.
My name is Juliet Mengesa. I'm a member of Children Advisory Committee. I'm also a working child in the field of farming. One of the challenges I face as I sell my produce is some of the customers want to buy my goods at very low prices. When I insist on the set price, they either beat or use abusive language against me. Yet there is no clear channel where I can report the violence. My question to the UN panel would be, what are some of the efforts that are being made in order to synchronize the different legislations from different countries in order to fight violence against children?
Hello, my name is Miriam and I'm from Lebanon and I'm 16 years old. Before I begin with my question, I would like to express how grateful I am to be part of this program and to be considered as a defender for child rights. And I'm grateful as well for the accomplishments of the United Nations that were done in my country and in countries all around the globe. Now, my question to Ms. Najat is, how are you planning to enhance the relationship between young child defenders and adult representatives in the United Nations? What further steps are you willing to take to embrace a better communication? Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you everybody who have submitted their questions for this session. I think they are all great and each of them has a very specific point they need to talk. So Dr. Najat, if you'd like to answer one of these questions, or in fact all of them, that would be great. The floor is yours now.
Thank you, Tin. I will respond to the 4 questions if you allow me, and just to first it's about street connected children. And, you know, it's one of my big tasks when I start, you know, the first Moroccan program in my country, in Morocco. It was on children on streets 30 years ago. So it's really a team that is really, really, really very important for me, among others. And I think it's that children connected to streets are really need to be more visible. And to just let you know that on next April, on 12 April, it's a International Day of Street Connected Children. Not only I will intervene, but we are working with all this consortium and so on. And I think you are right. And I am happy because today you are here reminding us that we made a promise, states made a promise to end all forms of violence against children in all settings, leaving no child behind before 2030. And we have only less than 8 years remaining. So we need to make sure that children who are living and or walking on streets are really seen as children in danger that needs protection, not as delinquent. And I am really happy that, you know, you are doing wonderful peer-to-peer initiative in a difficult and challenging context, you know, living in streets and preventing violence against children. on streets is not easy, and you are doing a lot. And I think our role here is also to highlight all what you are doing and to push more and more, states to make sure that you are seen as children needing protection, and also your voices have to be heard. It's not easy. This is what I am doing in my mandate, in my country visit, when I am meeting policymakers today, to make sure that you are not left behind. This is very, very important. And I remind you, as I told before, we did this mapping of all the initiatives undertaken by children worldwide, and it's in our website, and you can see all these wonderful things that are done. The main goal is to amplify, to disseminate, and to make sure that your voices and your initiative are really undertaken. This is very, very important, and please see it, and you can also share with us, other initiatives to make sure that we amplify your voice, that all worldwide they are aware about what you are doing. Regarding involving children on child safeguarding policies, and in the beginning, if you see Miguel present, this child safeguarding policies, I think it's important, very, very frankly, because you can have legislation, but child safeguarding policies have to be done within civil society organization, in sport, in church, in scouts. It's really important, but it has not to be done only by adults. It has to be informed by children. This is very important, because this is how we can report when we are doing sport, when we are scouts, when we are in an NGO, we are doing the cultural activities, how we can report violence, discrimination, humiliation, all these things that are very bad to, the adults, and to make sure that they are accountable. And I think it's really important to have them on board, because it's the best way to make them feeling not guilty and feeling empowered, duly informed to reach and to make this, accountable. Regarding, the difference between legislation among countries, I think you have many countries that ratified many conventions, and among them, the Convention on Children's Rights. And you have all the world, except United States of America, who had ratified this convention. It doesn't mean that they are implementing it, just to let you know, to be very frank. And it is why we are pushing, following, monitoring, you and civil society, and you children also monitoring it to make sure that it's implemented. Because, you can have wonderful laws, but they are not implemented, because they are here, they are not implemented because of lack of service resources, because of lack of accountability, because of lack of many things. So we need to remind states that laws are important, but making them effective, real, and duly implemented is our role, and making justice for children easily accessible. This is important. And regarding, the other things that how we can, continue the last regarding Lebanon, how we can make sure that, she is a young child defenders, and how we can use the opportunity within UN system. And just to let you know, and with many NGOs present today, and with other UN system, we are pushing to make sure that child participation, and not only youth, but children under 18, are duly listened, are duly involved, not only in the exhibit show during the 30th anniversary of CRC or an event, but to make sure that they are involved in this process. It's not an easy task, but it's currently, we are in a good way, but we need your help also, because this is important to show that you are here, you are the present, and you are not the future. And the present has to be taken into account with you, and the future has to be built with you. So over to you, Tina.
Well, Trude, thank you very much for all your responses. And then the last one, of course, all the children of the world whose laws and whose rights are broken, we are all standing with you and to help to end any form of violence, even mental or physical. So now we've got 3 questions in written form by a lovely audience from the Zoom. Now, the first one is from Daniel in Mexico. He's asking, what are some practices to end LGBT violence?
Yes, it's a big issue, to be very frank with you, worldwide, because you have some countries that accept, the to consider LGBTQ plus A plus as really a group and to be protected as children. And you have many other countries who are seeing, this as not appropriate. This is a big battle, to be very frank with you. It's a very, very big battle. And many of them are discriminated because of their sexual orientation. And we need to do more and more regarding how we can change the mind. Just to let you know, Teen, and to all the children who are listening, in some countries, they are considering that it's an illness, that we need to treat it. It's against religion, it's against values, this is against. And it's our role to be pedagogic also, to explain what means sexual orientation. It's not an illness. It's not a kind of, violating, religious beliefs and so on. But there is still a lot of work to do regarding this issue. And I think what is important, it's also regarding all this representativity of children and the peer-to-peer network to make sure that LGBTQ as well as children with disability are part of it. And I want to remind you all, because you are listening, as children and young people, you have a big role, because to be very frank with you, and you know it, bullying and cyberbullying that is done by children against children, by young people against young people, are targeting, many children and young people are targeting children who are different because they are LGBTQ, because they have disabilities. So we need also to make sure that we have the good understanding and this respect for the difference. And it starts by children themselves. And it's our role also to inform you and to make sure that they are seen as children. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you very much to this lovely response. It was quite informative. It's everything you need to know by you, by a trusted source in about a minute or so. So now we got a third, and it's a third, I think, in the final question. It comes from Kashmir from South Africa. How do we make sure that enough money is allocated to stop violence against children?
This is a big challenge. It is why I am doing this report this year, to convince, the Ministry of Finance, those, who have, money, and Ministry of Planning and donors, to tell them it's important to invest in protection of children, all children, without discrimination, against all forms of violence, because it is costing money. And it is costing also human capital, and it's impacting also human capital. And it is why I did this report that show, and many countries start doing it, that show that when you are investing and spending money in violence prevention services, in protection services for all children, and taking into account their caregivers in schools, through health, through justice, through education, through social protection, through social welfare, with the involvement of children, it's a high return on investment, because thanks to that, starting very soon, investing in children, it makes you having a better economic growth and the better human capital. And this is the main important thing about this report I am going to present, really to make them embarking with us and to see that as an investment and not only as additional expenses. Over to you, Tim.
We are all really looking forward to that accomplishment. We can all join a stable world with children can have a voice in their country. So now we have a last question, actually from my country, from Bosnia. So hello, anybody watching. So greetings from Bosnia and Herzegovina. My question is related to the position of children in wartime circumstances. Countries at risk of war conflicts are not good for children, of course. how can we protect children in war zones? Sorry.
This is a big question because, currently you are seeing what is going on in Ukraine, in Afghanistan, in Myanmar, in Sahel, in various parts of the world. You have conflict, civil wars, you have weapons and so on. The big issue is a political response, to be very frank with you, because we need the states to stop wars. And you have countries that are under war since many years, more than 20 years. And this is really to make sure, and this is what we are doing, to make sure that children, and women, and the most vulnerable, elder person also, all the civilians are not targeted. But if you are following the news, the big chief of states are not really observing all this, recommendation and so on. And this is important regarding also our role to move forward, to make sure that we are calling for ceasefire, to make sure that civilian, but the best way is to have no war. But it's not, for the moment, it's a very difficult task. And we need to continue working on that and making sure that, we are building, this culture of peace and non-violence. And we have many children, young people who are involved for call for ceasefire and, making these states who are violating all the international laws and international standards to make them more accountable. But it's not an easy task for children and what is going on currently, because we need to build back better, not only from the pandemic, but from all the ongoing humanitarian crises and wars that are still increasing. And the future, what we are doing currently, and with the recent crisis in Ukraine and Russia, it's not very optimistic. But I trust you, and I think we can push and, call for ceasefire. We need to do it each day, each minute, each second. Over to you, Tim.
Great, thank you. I think I also agree with you. And if we all push from each and every side, somebody will have to make a change and will change something, especially from you, the UN, and also from us children who are the lowest person to receive their treatment. I think when we all come together and work on a topic, we will make sure that it does happen. So now for the last thing that we could take from this entire session and from the entire day, that we are already doing so much work in achieving the 2030 Child Agenda, that the UN is with us, and that many other children are respecting us and seeing it as it shouldn't be. We are all doing as much as we can together with our other partners. We are trying to make sure that it stops. Now, I thank you very much, Dr. Najat, and to everybody who has joined us today. And if you have any more questions or any other comments or anything you'd like to say, feel free to drop it in the chat below or contact COVID-19 on this social media. Thank you very much again. If anybody has any further questions or statements, please do share them now.
Thank you, Tina. I think, thank you, Tina. Thank you, Asia. Thank you, Ojaswi. Very frankly, I think we have a lot of questions in Q&A. And I can really try to answer some questions and regarding those who are in the Q&A. And I saw that you have one question is proper budgets that I already addressed, and ending corporal punishment that are this and protection children in conflict settings. So this another question was about addressing hate speech. And I think this is important thing, because we are seeing worldwide through the increasing use of social media and increasing hate speech that is spreading worldwide against children, but also done by children and young people. So we need to make sure that, children and young people are aware about this hate speech and the harm it causes to children in their life, and this discrimination. And I think this is really important. We are working on it, but we cannot work on it without you. And just to let you know that currently with ITU and ICT sector, my office is currently working, on assessing, all these messages and to see how we can address, because it's a strong form form of violence. This is really important to deal, but you have a big role to play in it also. And it's linked also to cyberbullying. It's linked also to enrollment, you know, because hate speech is also used by criminal gang, by terrorist group to enroll children. So just to have it in mind. How to educate children to enhance protection and ensure child-friendly mechanism to report. This is important. I believe and I trust that informing children since their earliest age and, you know, empowering them to become agents of change, to be duly informed and to really provide support to their initiatives, their peer-to-peer initiative is really important because they are the best to protect themselves and to protect the other. But in the same time, states have the duty, really as duty bearer and all others, to provide with safe, accessible reporting mechanism and to make children aware about this mechanism, to make them, yes, you can. If you have a problem, you can report to it. And when you are going to report, you will have prompt response. This is very important. If it's not done, it's not going to be efficient because you need the report mechanism. But in the same time, you need to make sure that you have safety responses. You need to make sure that the perpetrators are accountable and to need to make sure that children are duly protected and their voices are listened. Another question was, sorry, I am looking at all this question, special protection measures during the COVID. I think in the beginning, you know, the COVID started as seen as a health crisis. But after that, we saw violence was increasing, mental health problem, socioeconomic problem. So you had many countries that start, you know, drafting the investing in and reopening the child protection, the child helpline, justice online, mental and psychosocial support, social protection. But it's still not enough. We need to do more and to do more and to make it more systematic. And linking, you know, gender-based violence, you know, protecting women and children at the same time. Yes, there is a link between violence against children and gender-based violence. And it's important to protect women and to protect girls, to end discrimination, gender-based discrimination, to end harmful practices that are targeting girls mostly in many countries. If we need to stop violence against children, and if we need to end this intergenerational cycle of violence, this is very important. And I don't know if I answered to all the question. Maybe I can give the floor to Ojaswi if I forget something. Ojaswi?
Yes, hello again. Hi, everyone. I'm back to transmit another question that we've received. Just to give a little background, capacity building is a buzzword that we hear a lot in this field, you know, building capacity of you know, people from all sorts of generations to effectively respond to violence. So we have a question from Akwazi from Ghana. They're asking, would you recommend violence against children as being introduced as part of teacher training education in developing countries? As in, you know, is it appropriate to do so? And if so, how can it be done effectively? Because we do see adults not properly knowing children's rights in many countries worldwide, developed. So I'd really like to know what you have to say about that.
I totally agree with the intervention. I think capacity building is really important, but we have to avoid this one-shot training session and forget it. And we have wonderful examples in many countries when it's embedded in the curricula of the policeman, of the judge, of the teachers, and also of the healthcare staff. This is very important to make sure that recognizing, because you know, violence against children, it's not only about blood and injury. You have many other things and symptoms that make you detecting very early that if you are not trained well, it's not going to be visible. So we need to make sure that we have this early detection, the early prevention. And we have many good examples and we can share it with you. I have no problem regarding that. In many developing countries, in Africa, in Middle East, in North Africa, in Latin America, you have that, it's embedded in the curricula. And I think it's important, but it's not enough. it also has to be embedded, in capacity building of children themselves. We need to make sure that also the culture of non-violence is really embedded, in schools, because cyberbullying and bullying has to be addressed within schools since the earliest age. And the last but not the least is parenting and, family counseling, and involving also the religious leader, because, you have in many countries, Quranic schools, religious schools, you have religious teaching within, the mosque, within the church. We need to make sure that it's embedded if we need to change, and to make, the world and all the actors stopping, seeing, violence as normal. Because currently it becomes a kind, we are tolerant. You have a societal tolerance to violence that it's unacceptable. And if we need to change, it's an ongoing capacity building of all the key actors, including children themselves. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Najat. I have another question for you. Addressing violence is really important, as we know from the whole point of this webinar, but ways to do it could be creative as well. It's really important to find out creative ways to address violence. So we have a question that is on this sort of topic. So we have Goodness from Nigeria asking, they co-run a fashion show event for children in Nigeria, where they use their events to create awareness on issues concerning children. So this year, they are planning for the event to be aimed at creating awareness on violence against children through fashion. So Najat, they'd like your advice on how they could use creative means to raise awareness about violence against children in their events. So they'd really like to know what you have to say.
So I think they are more creative than me, just to let you know. And you children, and I learned more about creativity from children. And I have grandsons, and one of them is 7 years old, and he is more creative than me. And just to let you know, I think what is important regarding just the most important thing is really to make, the target audience not feeling guilty, but to have creative way, in when you are making those who are listening, to your awareness campaign, that they are part of it, that they are actors. And if it's in Nigeria, for example, I saw many things were highlighted, for example, related to blasphemy, related to many things that are bad. And I think it's very important to target these points, but to have messages that are adapted, to the target audience. It could be a religious leader, it could be children, it could be, and I saw many things regarding through songs, through theater, through cartoons. You can make it, doing it. And we have really, I come back again to many wonderful things that already we have in our map. And please, that was done by many other children and young people using theater, many other things, songs and so on, that were used, so you can use them as example. Over to you, Najat.
Thank you, Najat. And I hope that answers your question, Goodness. I think you'll do a great job. Good luck with the fashion show. Najat, you did mention gender-based violence and how important it is to end gender-based violence, especially against women. So our next question is related to this. And it's been asked that violence is often the result of patriarchal systems. And these patriarchal systems are based on embedded gender norms in society. So they'd like to know how we can possibly change the gender norms eventually, so that it eventually also reduces violence against women and children. So I'd like to know what you have to say.
Regarding gender norms, and I think I am from Africa, and I am coming also from an Arabo-Islamic country, so I know very well, and I am a woman. So I know very well what means social norms and harmful social norm and gender-based gender discrimination. But we can make it change. We can make it change if first you have a strong society, civil society, including children and young people who are part of it, because the change starts, at grassroots level, but also at high level political level. So you need a strong political commitment regarding, at the top management level, not only the Ministry of Social, but the President, the Prime Minister, the Parliament, to make sure that this they want to. And at the same time, it's translated by strong legislation, but it's not enough. But in the same time, it's translated, by dedicated program, For example, education that is mandatory for all, including girls, but with high level quality, not only primary, but secondary school, having boarding schools, because it's a problem of safety of girls, because some of them cannot. But in the same time, working in changing minds. And here it's parenting, it's using and mobilizing the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, the women, the elder women, showing that it's possible, but not only involving women, involving men. This is very important because we are changing, a power balance, and this is important. And using also all the religious, books and Quran, Torah, and so on, to really highlight the protective practices, because you have not only dealing with the bad, but showing that it's possible. And this, it takes time. And I think, just to give you my example, my mom was illiterated, and I was in school because my father was investing in education of girls, because for him it's important to be independent intellectually, and this, I think it's important. But it's the way also you girls and boys make change when you are speaking with your parents, with your local communities, because you are showing you are educated, but you are respectful. And this doesn't mean that we become suddenly, these bad girls and crazy girls. So this is important, really, the role you are playing, it's really, really important. And I have a question, Ojaswi, if you allow me, because I saw it, is violence against children by police and by teachers, how we can deal with it. Just to let you know, it was in French, if I am not wrong. And I think what is important here is really police normally has to protect children, but we know that in many countries they are beating children, they are not treating them well. You have children who are put in detention, you are children who are judged, you are children who have 7 years are detained. And we know also that in many schools, despite many laws, you have teachers who are beating children because it's a kind of discipline. So it's important to make sure that, in these states, that you have a mechanism really that make children report and make police and teachers accountable. And this is our role of UN as monitoring, as pushing, to make sure that. But in the same time, you as, also human rights defender and involved, you have also to make it, to report it, because I think, we need to show that it's not acceptable, and the role really is to protect. But I agree with you, this is very important to make, in my country, when I start working with children on the streets, the police were telling me, policemen, but why you are dealing with the delinquents? They say they are bad for, we need to clean the streets. And I told them, no, they are not bad. It's the system that excluded them. So what it's important to make sure, I was arrested many times with them because I was against the fact that they have to be arrested. So you need leaders and you need to work, changing minds, putting, monitoring, working. And it is why our role as UN is to have this link between your work, the work of civil society organization, parliamentarian, national human rights institutions, and policymakers, because change is not possible without building, all these links between all of them. Over to you, Jasri.
Thank you, Najat. That was a very informative set of answers. And I'd like to sort of give my own thoughts alongside this before passing on. I think the source of all violence towards everyone can sort of be traced back to a power imbalance. And in that power imbalance, we as children or any victims of any sort, not just children, are taught that it's disrespectful to want the same power as other people also have, or to be equal. But I'm here to tell you that it is not disrespectful to ask for your rights or to ask for anybody else's rights. In fact, it's not disrespectful at all. It's respectful to others. And it's also something that all of us should sort of see as a responsibility. So evaluate your surroundings. Do it in a way that protects your safety and the safety of others around you. But please don't be afraid to stand up for the rights of other people. And thank you, Najat. I think your answers were incredible. I will be passing the mic on to Aisha again, because she's amazing. So Aisha, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajasvi. We have another interesting question in chat. Let me read some. Let me read and hear what Dr. Najat reflections. How can we increase child participation in schools?
Okay, Aisha, I will respond to how we can increase child participation. You have in many countries, within schools, what they call, local committees, and there are elected children, who are part of the committees, and they are involved, in the designing the program, in implementing, in monitoring, in providing counseling. But it's still not enough. We need to make sure also that this is become systematic, and child participation, it's not only about, having committees. It's a part, but it's not enough. Child participation means that the teacher, during its lessons, what is important is how we inform children, how we listen to children, how we hear them, and how you can have this kind of dialogue. This is very, very, very important to build this culture of respectful dialogue between teachers and students. And this is, we have still a lot to do.
Okay, second question. Thank you, Dr. Najat. Okay, second question. Thank you, Dr. Najat. That's really important takeaways for all of us here. Me as a child, I was always looking forward for those opportunity in school, but sometimes it can be complicated with some barrier, and I hope it will change in future. Okay, second question. Question from Priyashi in India. Many children are forced into begging. What can we do to prevent this?
Aisha, hi. I think we're having some internet connection problems with Najat. So we are waiting for her to reconnect. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. And you are doing absolutely great, Aisha. Is there anything that you would like to share?
Nothing.
Yes, we are having, we are waiting for Dr. Najat Malla M'jid to reconnect. Sometimes these things happen to all of us. In the past 2 years, we've been using the internet a lot. Maybe the internet is tired. We are also, it's a Saturday morning. Here we are. So thank you. Thank you for being back.
Sorry, I
and
was
now the floor is yours. We still have 7 minutes, so please go ahead. Thank you.
Can I read again?
So just just regarding the last question, I didn't hear it. If you can repeat it, Aisha, sorry, but I was disconnected very quickly. Thank you so much.
Okay, second question. Question from Priyashi in India. Many children are forced into begging. What can we do to prevent this?
So begging, it's linked, as I was telling at the beginning, when children have to survive because they are living in poverty and they have no parents, or deprived of family care, or they are on streets. And this is not, rights of children. So what is important is to improve the living condition and to make sure that the children are not forced to beg. Children have to be in a protective environment, in school, have good health, enjoy their rights. So this is important. You cannot end violence against children and begging and exploitation if you are not improving the living condition, and if you are not seeing them, as children to to protect and to enjoy their powers. This is important. And at the same time, it was a question about barriers and about polygamy, Miguel, if you allow me, because I saw it in the chat. I think there are many barriers for children really to request, to ask, to report. So this is important really, and I count on you all really to make sure that you are, improving this peer-to-peer reporting, peer-to-peer information, to have this wonderful chain of children worldwide, virtual or not virtual, but to make sure that we have this to make change, and you can make it. And one question from Togo, it's about polygamy, et là je vais répondre en français parce que c'était en français, juste pour dire que je viens d'un pays arabo-musulman et la polygamie effectivement est dans le Coran. Maintenant chez nous, il y a eu des changements, elle n'est permise que c'est à la permission de la première femme, mais je tiens à rappeler que dans le Coran, la polygamie n'est permise que si le mari est capable de donner la même attention aux 4 femmes, ce qui est du domaine de l'impossible. Donc ce qui est très très important, c'est aussi l'interprétation de l'islam dans les pays non arabophones, et il y a encore beaucoup de travail à faire. Les mutilations génitales féminines ne sont pas dans le Coran, juste pour vous dire. Donc il y a beaucoup de choses qui n'existent pas et qu'il est important. L'exploitation des enfants, les enfants talibés, on n'exploite pas les enfants au nom de l'islam. Donc il y a beaucoup de choses qui doivent changer et qui ne sont pas dans le Coran, mais qui sont utilisées à des fins économiques et à des fins politiques dans certains cas. If I am not wrong, Miguel, I have less than 3 minutes to conclude. Just let me know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so,
that is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Normally, it's children who have to conclude, and it's very difficult to conclude after. I was really, really impressed by you, and I am not lying. Asia, all just sweet, teen, wonderful, and behind you, and also the question, and I saw the list, and I want to tell you many, many thanks. You know, you make me trust. You know, sometimes I am desperate, to be very frank with you, because fighting, and repeating and mobilizing all the others to make sure that children are in the political agenda, that, protecting children and their rights are really in the political agenda, translated, by commitments, but not only blah, 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 not only wonderful papers, but also in program, in money, in budget, and seeing children duly listened, and seeing children, all children without discrimination, equally treated. It's a big challenge. And when you are seeing the world, it's not easy to deal with it. But when I listen to you, you make me, you re-energize me. And it's like a booster. And we have the pandemic of violence against children. And I think the vaccine against this pandemic, it's you. And you are, and I think it's really important, very frankly, and I want to tell you many, many thanks, but it's not the last moment we are going to meet. We will meet again, before my GA, sure, but we will see all other points. I want to also to let you know, as I told in the beginning, we have the child-friendly version of this report that was translated in many languages that we received. Please share it and disseminate it with other children worldwide. This is very important. Please reach the digital map that we have and we shared you. And just to make sure that you can write to us, contact us very frankly regarding that. And I know that we had many questions that we didn't have time to answer. Just, I promise you that we will answer them and you will receive our response. And I just want to tell you many thanks for being there. Many thanks for being leaders, because you are leaders. And hope seeing you very, very soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was indeed a very exciting session. We had over 400 participants, with over very curious participants that submitted more than 150 questions. We obviously didn't have, unfortunately, the time to answer all of them today, but we promised to go through each and every one of them and address them individually after this event. So I take again the opportunity to thank the wonderful moderators from Malaysia, from India, from Bosnia, and Morocco, who joined us today and made this briefing so exciting. It was a pleasure to be part of it. I'm sorry for my mistakes. And I'll just ask you, if you don't mind, to turn on your camera so that we have a photo, so that we welcome and say thank you for everyone who joined and sent the questions. Thank you so very much. It was a huge pleasure, and we'll hopefully see you soon, here, online, or in person. Thank you so much.